Live Event. It's going to be 30 minutes in total, and we're going to deep dive into the topic of diet and cancer. My name is Linnea, and I am a part of the War on Cancer team. Usually Fabian is the one hosting our events, but unfortunately he is sick today. So I will be the one hosting you here from Mozambique, where I live. Might be worth mentioning that I live on a farm run by a solar panel system, which broke down yesterday. So if we are experiencing some darkness or any electricity issues, you'll know why, and I hope you can bear with me if that happens, but let's hope it doesn't. We are joined today by Matt Lambert, Health Information Officer at WCRF, so the World Cancer Research Fund in UK. And the World Cancer Research Fund is a leading cancer prevention charity in the UK and is part of the World Cancer Research Fund network. They fund global research into the links between diet, weight, physical activity, and cancer. But first, some practical information. If you have joined through the browser, we suggest you rejoin and download the Zoom app so you get the best experience. That way you can also ask questions during the webinar. We have already received a bunch of questions, which we will cover towards the end of the chat. And don't hesitate to send in any questions you might have during the webinar, and we'll try to cover them as well in the end. We have about 5 to 10 minutes that we will spend on answering your questions. We can actually start with questions to everybody right now that will pop up on your screen, and you can just enter your answer. Let's see if everybody can see it. Have you received specialist diet advice since being diagnosed? And you can choose between yes, I have, no, I have not, or I don't know. So we'll just let everybody answer, and then we can see the results. At the moment, 100% has not received any advice on this. Interesting.
That's surprising.
Very. Okay, so let's end the poll and I can share the results with you. 100% have not received this. So on this, we can continue and we can cover now the topic of healthy living during and after cancer treatment. I remember when I was getting treatment for breast cancer, how I lost my taste and my smell. And for example, water had an awful taste, and at times I had extreme cravings for greasy food, which I normally didn't have. But I remember that that was the only thing I wanted to eat. But at the same time, I was wondering, should I be eating this? Is this really healthy? But before we dive into these types of questions, let's welcome today's expert guest. Matt, welcome. How are you today?
Thank you. Very good, thank you. Good to be here.
Really nice to have you.
Hoping we can share some great information today for the audience.
I'm sure we will. I know, for example, that we cancer patients often hear from healthcare professionals, eat whatever makes you happy, or as long as you're eating, you're okay. And circling back to me having cravings for greasy foods. What is your thoughts on this and those statements? Where do they come from?
Sure. So I think firstly, it's important to remember that good nutrition during cancer is really important. So it's really important to help keep your daily energy levels up, helps maintain a healthy functioning immune system, helps maintain muscle mass, helps prevent malnutrition, and allows the body to recover as well. So we can only do that, we can only provide the nutrients it needs for that recovery process by eating nutrient-rich, what we call healthy foods. However, of course, there are going to be situations where following a healthy diet is not going to be the #1 priority. For example, if someone is finding it difficult to eat enough because of eating disturbances, because of the type of cancer they have had, They may have lost weight. So in those situations, getting enough protein and getting enough energy is the main priority. But there may be in those situations where healthy eating sort of goes out the window a little bit. So you might be actually be eating more high calorie, high energy foods that you would do normally, such as things like cream, butter, full fat milk, full fat yogurt, etc. So it very much comes down to the individual, and it's really important that if you are experiencing any issues with keeping your energy levels up, that you always follow the advice and guidance from your dietitian, because obviously they will know your medical history and will be able to advise appropriately. It's important to remember that if you are trying to build up your energy and build up your protein intake, you can still do that by eating nutrient-rich foods. It doesn't have to be processed food or fast food, etc. So you could look at making things like your own homemade smoothie, such as blending whole milk with a banana, maybe mixed up some almonds in there as well, snacking on nuts and seeds and putting them on your yogurt or your muesli in the morning as well is another great tip as well. And try and include more like energy-rich, nutrient-rich foods, such as like nut butters, such as almond butter, peanut butter. You can have it on toast with some avocado, maybe oat cakes as well with some avocado and some cheese on there as well. So there's lots of really good ways you can get energy levels up without having to use like nutrient poor food. It's also really important to remember that eating is much more than the nutrients it provides. Food also provides us joy as well. And also going through cancer, it's a really emotionally draining time, and be able to get some comfort from the food we enjoy. And if that's a higher fat type of food, then it doesn't matter. I mean, it's all about balance. Of course, we wouldn't want people to have, an over-reliance on takeaway and fast food. Of course, it's really important to provide the body with the nutrients it needs to support recovery.
Yeah, for sure. Sorry, go ahead.
So going back to your original question about cravings. So obviously during cancer and during any sort of chronic illness, people can get cravings for certain foods. There's a number of reasons why that may be the case. It might be the case that the body is trying to get the nutrients and energy it needs just to have enough day-to-day energy. It might be from an emotional point of view as well. As we talked about, food also has a very strong emotional connection to us as well, especially when it's food that takes us back to our childhood. And there might be certain foods that we just might only feel like eating at certain times, and that's okay. And I think it's important that if you are craving those type of foods, to give yourself some slack. Don't be afraid to have it, because what is often the case is that when people crave a particular type of food, and when they go, no, I'm not having that, I'm not going to eat it, you end up really sort of like overeating that food, which is not good. So yeah, so allowing yourself a little bit of what you fancy, absolutely no problems there at all. And also we have hormones that fluctuate, that can also dictate the type of foods we crave as well. So serotonin, one of our feel good hormones, and when we're feeling a little bit low, serotonin can be a little bit lower. And one way you can increase serotonin is through like carbohydrate rich foods. So opting, so in those situations you might have more cravings for more like sort of sweet type of foods rather than sort of like savory, more higher fat foods. So lots of chemistry in the brain that dictates that. So it's a really complicated and interesting area in the area of
a lot going on, and that answers my question as well, why maybe my body needed that type of fat, and the healthy fat that you mentioned, like avocado and such. And it's so interesting about maybe having some childhood memories about the food that you're eating, which makes me think about the movie Ratatouille. I don't know if you've seen it, but
no, yeah, I have, yeah.
they go back to that to impress the food critic.
That's right.
But what about then diets, like the basics, like vegan versus vegetarian and carnivore? Are there any guidelines here?
Sure. So Firstly, so within World Cancer Research Fund, we obviously have a package of what we call cancer prevention recommendations. And as that package, they're the sort of the best package based on the available evidence that is really going to give you the best chance of not getting cancer. And also within our recommendations, if you are going for cancer, then to try and follow our recommendations if you can. So those are some recommendations that people can go to our website and have a closer look at what those recommendations are. We probably won't have time to go through those in detail today. But going back to the question about vegan versus vegetarian versus carnivore. So first of all, I'll touch on the vegan and vegetarian. So firstly, looking at vegan and vegetarian cancer. So first of all, there's no conclusive evidence that if you do follow vegan or if you do go vegetarian, it's going to reduce your risk of cancer. Of course, there are some absolutely fundamental parts of going vegan or vegetarian that will help prevent cancer, such as eating more fruits and vegetables, eating more whole grains, eating more pulses, and not eating red meat as well. So these are all essentially parts of our cancer prevention recommendations. So when people say to me, oh, you know, do I need to go vegan? Do I need to go vegetarian to reduce my cancer risk? The answer is no, but fundamentally within a vegan or vegetarian lifestyle, providing you are still eating those plant-based foods, it is going to help prevent you getting cancer and improve survival rates as well. However, I will say that just because, you know, if you are going vegan or vegetarian, doesn't necessarily mean it's healthy. You can still eat a lot of processed food if you are going vegan or vegetarian. And of course, you do need to consider other nutrients that you might be missing out on if you're going from animal-based, purely plant-based. So the carnivore diet is very much more extreme. It basically involves completely elimination of any plant food. It's all 100% animal-based, and often means consuming high amounts of red meat, which we know our evidence shows that there's a strong link between red meat, especially when you're consuming more than 500 grams of red meat a week, increases the risk of bowel cancer. And we also don't know what the long-term risks of following a purely animal-based diet is going to be for long-term health as well. So again, we can say that there is no conclusive evidence, despite what some people on the internet may say about the carnivore diet. So absolutely wouldn't recommend it, because it goes against any type of logical healthy eating recommendations.
Yeah, and I guess so. All the trendy, let's say, diets, such as keto, raw food, and anti-inflammatory foods and such, is it the same there, or what do you think?
Yeah, so looking at some of those trendy diets, and we know that things like the low carbohydrate, high fat diet, ketogenic diet, these are all like sort of real like buzzwords out there, and there is a lot of misinformation out there. And that misinformation is about like, oh, you can reduce your risk of cancer, you can never get cancer if you eat like this, and you can't really, you can't say that. And the thing is, you know, there's not one way of eating that's going to ultimately prevent cancer. I mean, obviously, following our cancer prevention recommendations, our lifestyle advice is going to give you the best chance of not getting cancer. But these more trendy type of diets are really lacking in scientific evidence. And it's very much based on like buzzwords and a lot of influencers online spouting a lot of really not so sensible science. So the reason why the low carbohydrate, high fat diet and ketogenic diet has been reported to help reduce the incidence of cancer and help with survival from cancer is it allows the body to use other fuels other than glucose, because essentially you're almost eliminating all glucose from the body. And it's this whole notion that cancer cells need glucose to thrive. So if you starve those cancer cells of glucose, your cancer growth is going to be reduced or completely diminished. But the science doesn't work like that. It's a very oversimplification of the science. Excuse me. We know that obviously our healthy cells need glucose as well, and also we get glucose from eating not just sugar, but all carbohydrates. All carbohydrates essentially break down to glucose. So you can't preferentially starve your cancer cells of glucose, because you'll be essentially starving all your healthy cells, and your healthy cells are going to need the energy to help fight the cancer. So, and the problem with these type of diets, they are very restrictive. They mean cutting out major food groups, especially things like the ketogenic diet, where you're not going to be consuming much in the way of plant-based food. So these are all things that really go against what we'd advise for a for healthy eating.
Yeah, for sure. And I guess that answers also questions that that we have concerning if sugar feeds cancer, for example. That's a common question that we get from the community, and like you were saying, and I guess also cancer or not, just following a healthy plate model, eating normally, let's say, everything that is good for you is always good, even if you have cancer or not, I guess. But what about supplements then? How can they help? Could that, for example, replace all food with if we had just supplements?
So firstly, with supplements, so supplements is a really interesting one. So I think first and foremost, it's important to note that firstly, there's no evidence that taking supplements is going to prevent cancer, nor will it stop you getting cancer again if you've already had cancer. So to answer your question directly, you could supplement all of your food in the diet. Would you want to do that? Absolutely not. Would that be nutritious? Absolutely not. Where possible, you want to try and get all the nutrition you need through eating a healthy, balanced diet. Of course, sometimes that's easier said than done, and depending upon the type of cancer you've had. For example, if you've had bowel cancer, you might have had part of your intestine removed. So your body's ability to absorb nutrients is going to be reduced. In those situations, taking a supplement will be recommended. And certain other times where supplements might be recommended is vitamin D. We know vitamin D is really important for a healthy functioning of the immune system. However, we can only make in the UK, we can only make enough vitamin D for the body's needs during the months of March to September. So the body makes actually 90% of the vitamin D it needs through sunlight. So if you're not getting enough sunlight exposure, that's going to be a problem. So in those situations, supplement may be required, or you could get vitamin D through food sources such as oily fish, egg yolk, liver, and other fortified foods as well. And within our cancer prevention recommendations, what we do say is that for cancer prevention is don't rely on supplements. So because we do know that there's some evidence to show that high dose single supplements can actually be harmful. They can actually increase the risk of certain cancers. And beta carotene, which is a type of vitamin A, was actually shown to be for people who had lung cancer, people who were taking the high dose beta carotene, as I say, which is a plant-based vitamin A supplement, actually had higher rates of lung cancer. So supplements in certain situations can actually be quite harmful. And the problem is there's a lot of marketing that companies use quite cleverly on supplements that really oversell the science. The thing is, you can never get what you could get through a supplement than you could through eating a healthy, balanced diet, because a supplement doesn't contain the fiber, it doesn't contain all the other nutrients that a food contains, such as compounds called phytonutrients. So these are special compounds within the fruit and vegetables. These may actually have cancer-fighting properties within them, although the evidence is not conclusive in that area. So really, where possible, I would advise people to try and meet their nutritional needs through following a healthy, balanced diet, incorporating a range of different fruits and vegetables, especially different coloured fruits and vegetables, because it's the pigment that makes up the different coloured fruits and vegetables that actually provide a lot of additional nutrients that you would never find in supplements. In supplement. Exactly.
Right, that's really good to know. And I mean, if we address some common diet myths, like only eating organic to avoid cancer. Is that what's your statement on that?
So this has probably been one that has been flying around the internet for quite a few years now. So the thing is with organic, again, it's a lot of like it's a lot of like marketing there. It's like a lot of sort of like a bit of like a buzzword like superfood. So first and foremost, just because a food is organic doesn't necessarily mean it's more nutritious. So studies have actually compared organic or non-organic fruits and vegetables and found the nutritional composition to be fairly similar, if not roughly the same. So if it's organic, it basically means it's free from any genetically modified ingredients, any like fertilizers, growth hormones or other hormones, etc. But for the extra cost that you're getting through having, through buying organic food, there isn't really a benefit, and there's certainly no clear evidence that following an organic diet is going to mean that you're going to be less likely to get cancer. The evidence is not there at all. The most important thing for people to really focus on is actually getting more fruits and vegetables, more fiber-rich foods such as whole grains, such as brown rice, quinoa, wholemeal bread, etc. Pulses such as bean, peas, and lentils, rather than worrying too much about where it's organic or not. So I think it's important to focus on the basics of the healthy diet and lifestyle, and those small little things like it being organic makes literally no difference in the grand scheme of things. So we can say we can myth bust that and say that there's no evidence there. There's certainly no strong conclusive evidence there anyway.
That's good to know as well. I know some cancer patients that have been feeling guilty, maybe because they've been thinking, I haven't been eating organic enough, but that's great to know then. Before we start answering, we have a few questions popping in here, but before we start answering them, can we finish off with some general advice for our listeners? Do you have any general advice regards to diet that we can give to anyone currently going through cancer or that has gone through cancer and wants to avoid a potential relapse, for example?
Exactly. So I think firstly, it's really important to remember that food is much more than the nutrients it contains. It actually gives us a lot of enjoyment as well. And if you are going through cancer, it's really important, as we talked about earlier on, is to enjoy your food. That's really important. So that's probably my first thing. Secondly, I would say that there's no one food or single nutrient that's going to prevent cancer or stop cancer reoccurring. It's really it's consuming a whole wide array of different nutrients from a wide variety of different food groups as well. And when you are making any changes to your diet and lifestyle, it's important to start small. It might be simple things such as cooking from scratch more often instead of relying on fast food or processed food, or adding more fruits and vegetables in your days. It might be something as simple as adding some chopped banana or a handful of dried fruit to your cereal in the morning, or having a smoothie for a nutritious afternoon snack. So it's just trying to fit, it's making these small little changes. It's not having a big lifestyle overhaul. It's just these small little changes that really do add up. And another big tip is, obviously, eating more plant-based food is going to be really important for cancer prevention and also from a general health point of view. So adding in more pulses, so things like beans, peas, and lentils instead of red meat, or even going half and half. So having like half mince and half pulses, you're still going to be getting all the extra protein you would be missing out on through the red meat. It will just be probably more filling because it's going to have more fiber. It's going to bring more vitamins and minerals to it as well, and also it's going to be lower fat as well, because obviously pulses are a very low fat source of protein compared to red meat. And pulses actually count as one of your five a day as well. So an 80-gram serving of pulses, you're actually getting one of your five a day in there as well. And also, the other top tip I'd say is getting people to have more, where possible, more whole grains in their diet as well. So again, really important from a bowel health, from a digestive health point of view, and helping to reduce the risk of bowel cancer. So again, adding more unrefined grains into your diet, such as oats, quinoa, flaxseed, chia seed, brown rice, wholemeal bread, wholemeal pasta, etc., rather than their processed white counterparts. And again, it's these little simple changes you can make, but actually have a real big impact from a health point of view, not just from a cancer prevention point of view, but we're talking more just a sort of general from a health point of view as well. And lastly, I just want to mention also physical activity, really important part of cancer prevention, and to help improve survival rates as well. So try to get active as much as you can, and finding something that enjoys is probably like one of my key tips, because people tend to think, oh, you go to gym to get fit, and that's not the case. It could be walking the dog, it could be doing yoga, doing a yoga class, it could be putting the radio on and dancing to your favorite song. Doesn't matter what it's doing, as long as it's something gets you moving, it's going to be really good. It's going to help improve those, increase the levels of the feel-good hormones, the endorphins, improving mental well-being, and also improving your physical health as well. So as I said, it's not just one thing; it's a whole sort of like package of diet and lifestyle advice. Is going to be the best bit of advice.
Definitely, yes, and like you're saying, doesn't have to be a lot of physical activity. Having an hour at the gym, or like you're saying, you can go take a walk with your dogs, or make that tiny effort anyways, because that's really golden worth. And combined with enjoying your meal, like you said, and the small changes, the small things in the nutrition that you can just add to make it great. That's really good advice. I was thinking that maybe we could answer some questions that we've received during the webinar. And let's see here. The first question is, somebody's finding it difficult to find advice on books on what to eat during chemo. Do you have any book advice on food?
So what I would probably shameless plug here, I'll probably plug our one of our resources that World Cancer Research Fund has, and that's a guide called Eating Well During Cancer. And that touches on some of the side effects that people experience when they're going through cancer, if they're having radiotherapy or chemotherapy. And there's lots of real practical tips and advice that people can follow if they are experiencing side effects. So I really recommend them to actually go and have a look on our website, which is www.wcrf-uk.org. Go to our health advice section, and you can download the book for free there as well. Great. So if people have problems, maybe they can contact you, and then we can arrange to get a copy sent out to them as well.
Wonderful, that's great. And we also have one person saying that treatment has made me lose sense of taste, or nothing tastes as it used to. What can I do to not lose my entire appetite?
Sure. So firstly, taste disturbances are quite common with people going through cancer, and it obviously very much depends upon the type of treatment that they've had as well. So taste disturbances typically occurs in about 50% of people, and those taste disturbances can range from things tasting metallic, foods tasting really bland. So a lot of people just tend to really lose their interest in food, and as we talked about very much early on in the webinar about how important good nutrition is, and and if you don't feel like eating, and if you don't have that desire to eat because food, it doesn't taste right, and and that's where we get the enjoyment from food, is from the taste. So if things don't taste right, then it's going to mean that the body's not going to be getting in the energy and nutrient it needs. Right. My tips are really to look at using strong flavors. So really sort of go OTT, we're over the top with the flavorings, adding things like lemon juice and spices, really important as well. And actually, we actually have a booklet for people who are going through cancer, who are experiencing taste disturbances. And we worked with a chef called Ryan Riley from Life Kitchen. And he's produced a recipe book for us. We've worked in collaboration with him, and we've actually got a recipe book so people can actually follow. And all the recipes are really designed to really enhance the taste and flavour of the dishes. And all of the dishes are nutritionally complete as well. So they obviously adhere to our cancer prevention guidelines as well. So again, people can find that on our website.
That's great. That's really great. Let's take one last question before we wrap up. Time flies when you're having fun, right?
Absolutely.
Do you burn more calories while on chemo generally? I feel hungrier. Is that chemo, do you think? And I guess that's what you were talking about earlier, when our bodies are low on energy. Maybe that can be it.
So I wouldn't say I know the answer for sure on that one, but I can probably make an educated guess about that. Probably guess is a bit of a stretch, but of course, you know, when the body is under any type of stress, cancer and obviously the treatment, chemotherapy, radiotherapy is a tremendous stress as well. So when the body is stressed, it is going to have a high requirement of certain nutrient and certainly energy as well. So for me, that would logically, from a scientific point of view, would make sense as to why they are, feeling hungrier. So if they are feeling hungrier, allow them, give themselves some the extra food that the body needs, because it's really important. Obviously, if you're going through cancer and if you're going through treatment, to try and keep your energy levels up and try and keep your weight stable as well.
Yeah, great. And for any other resources regarding this, please, anyone can go to WCRFUK.org and read more about this, right?
Absolutely. And also, we just brought out a guide for people after cancer as well. So healthy living after cancer. So again, to give lots of practical lifestyle advice for people to follow after cancer, which to help reduce the risk of cancer returning as well. And people can also download that free of charge.
That's perfect, especially now in these digital days when we are all mostly working from home. Downloading everything and having something to read is going to be perfect.
Absolutely.
Well, time is up, and I want to thank you, Matt, for joining us and providing us with this valuable information. Thank you, everyone, for listening. The next live event will be in 2 weeks on November 25th, and we'll be covering prehab versus rehab with Adele Hugh, a specialist oncology dietitian who works closely with you at the World Cancer Research Fund. And Adele has a broad experience working with the NHS, charity and private sectors in the UK. And she will provide personalized dietary advice for us living with and beyond cancer to cope with side effects and improve quality of life. So if you have any questions to Adele regarding this, please email them to us at hello@waroncancer.com, or bring them with you into the live event itself when we are having it on the 25th. So thank you so much.
Pleasure.
Have a nice day.